My son is a freshman at Florida State, and he's talked about maybe rushing and joining a frat. And like some of my friends who have kids in college, I'm a little concerned, and it's because of stories like the one I'm about to talk about right now. Max Groover was an 18-year-old freshman from Roswell. He was at LSU. He decided to rush a frat. He died. 10 of his fraternity brothers are facing hazing charges. One is facing negligent homicide. Now, those families are worried about their kids' futures, but that's nothing compared to what Max's family is dealing with. Now let me tell you about the number that's at the center of all of this, 0.495. That was Max's blood alcohol level at the time of his death, according to a coroner's report released today. 0.495 is more than 6 times the legal limit for drivers in Georgia. So how much alcohol does it take to get to that number? Well, I did some research, put together this quick demonstration earlier today. Take a look. This is me pouring enough alcohol, 190 proof, grain alcohol, which is the type that was consumed by Max at that party for an hour and a half. An hour and a half, 180-pound male would have to consume this much of 190 proof alcohol to get to 0.495. So, how common are deaths like this? Let's bring in Chris Hopper right now. Chris?
So, Vinny, Professor Hank Newer has documented every hazing death since 1838. He's been studying this topic for the better part of 30 years. But listen to this reaction tonight when he heard that blood alcohol level of 0.495.
This is a really whopping blood alcohol content level. I can only think of one that's higher, and that was at LSU, the death of Ben Wynn.
Only one that was higher, also an LSU student. He said it there. Ben Wynn died in 1997 with a BAC of 0.588. He had been drinking at a bar during an event for his fraternity. Now, this was the scene on LSU's campus today. LSU students in handcuffs turning themselves into police, all facing hazing charges. One of their attorneys talked to reporters on the ground in Baton Rouge today.
Whether they're charged with a criminal crime or not, they're all devastated. The other important thing is hazing is not being charged with the murder or the death. And I think that's something that really needs to be kept in perspective, is the individuals that are being charged with hazing are not being charged with his death.
Now, according to Professor Newer's numbers, there have been 40 hazing deaths, related deaths, on college campuses in the last 10 years. Since 1838, he says there have been a total of 220. And Professor Newer says hazing is incredibly difficult to prove. He can't see anyone in this case getting more than a fine and maybe at most 30 days in jail.
Hazing is a very difficult charge to prove. Attorneys will argue that the definition is too vague, that it's not constitutional. Number 2, that the victim participated willingly. And number 3, that there was no intent to hurt.
And in Louisiana, it's a misdemeanor. Also remember tonight, there was a similar hazing death at Penn State earlier this year. 14 frat members will stand trial in that case, but the most serious charges have already been dismissed, Vinny.
All right, Chris, really appreciate it. And those numbers are something we really have to pay attention to here. Thanks so much.
Absolutely.